The new sugar baby of my ex-sugar daddy is currently liking every single one of my tweets. Her selfie avatar floods my entire phone screen in the new interaction notifications. Unfortunately, she's barking up the wrong tree. Barnaby Lancaster's true love has never been me, Meredith Talbot. At 2:30 in the morning, the string of messages is giving me a headache. I switch my phone to silent and place it beside the bed, then take out a silver cigarette case and light one up. By now, I've been in Iceland for 6 months, and tomorrow is the day I return to England. My agent has informed me that a film I shot 2 years ago has been nominated for the industry's highest award. She's urging me to hurry back and prepare for the awards ceremony. I dropped out of university at 22 and hit the peak of my career right from the start. My silver screen debut swept all the major awards. This year, I'm 24, almost 25. I've starred in at least 5 or 6 productions. And now, the work that's earned me the highest accolade of my career is a nightmare I'd rather not even watch. During the post-award interview, the host smiles and congratulates me. I play along, acting pleased, thanking the director and all the staff, deliberately omitting the sponsor. I've always been curious, Miss Talbot. As such a talented actress, what was the catalyst for your entry into the entertainment industry? Hearing this question, I pause for a moment. I remember when I first went for a film audition, the director, seeing how young I was, chatted with me a bit more. At the time, he asked me, "Why choose to make films? With your looks, you could easily become famous singing or dancing. Coming here to act means tough days on set, you know." My eyes lit up as I replied, "To find someone. I want to be on the biggest screen so he can see me." I snapped back to reality, putting on my practiced professional smile for the host and camera. Of course, it's to contribute to British cinema. I hope our productions can keep getting better and better. Cut the recording for a moment. Miss Talbot. The assistant director rushes over, handing me his phone. Please take a look at this trending topic. The #1 trending topic reads, "The CEO's secret childhood sweetheart, is his girlfriend of 2 years just a lookalike?" According to inside sources, Barnaby Lancaster's deceased childhood sweetheart bears a striking resemblance to his ex-girlfriend Meredith Talbot. Is this a coincidence, or is Mr. Lancaster truly so devoted? The filming assistant reads the trending post in a low voice, but the assistant director shoots him a glare. Realizing his mistake, he quickly covers his mouth. "Miss Talbot, I'm sorry." I smile graciously, "It's all right. Let's end the interview here for today. Thank you everyone for your hard work. I'll be heading off now. My agent is already waiting in the people carrier, too busy to even look up." As I get in, lifting my dress, I ask, "What's the situation with the trending topic?" "I've already contacted the media to remove it." "What a mess, having to break this news on the very day of your award win." "Huh?" My agent suddenly pauses, looking up at me with a strange expression. "Meredith, the trending topic is gone." "That's good," I say, massaging my furrowed brow and letting out a sigh. "Take me home, please." "Wait a minute, Meredith. What's really going on between you and Barnaby Lancaster? Has he really been treating you as a substitute for the past 2 years?" I cover my head with a fluffy blanket and mutter, "I'm going to take a nap." If I were to count carefully, Barnaby Lancaster and I could be considered childhood sweethearts. I was 5 years old when it happened. While playing near my home, a man suddenly grabbed me and shoved me into a people carrier. With a black bag over my head, I woke up to find myself handcuffed to a water pipe alongside a young boy. At that time, I didn't know what kidnapping was, nor did I feel afraid. All I knew was that this older boy was incredibly handsome, and he smelled wonderful. He gently comforted me, telling me not to be scared, that the police would come to rescue us. I nodded, not fully understanding. "What's your name, big brother?" I asked, staring at him curiously. He smiled, "Barnaby Lancaster." "And you?" "I'm Meredith Talbot." The warehouse was vast, mostly shrouded in darkness. On the rare occasions when light filtered in, I would gaze at him, mesmerized. I had never seen such a handsome boy before. The kidnappers beating us had become routine, fresh blood on the floor constantly overlaying the old. The burly men were particularly brutal with Barnaby. Each time he lay on the ground, pale-faced, I feared he might fall asleep like in the telly shows and never wake up again. To keep him from sleeping, I would chatter endlessly, telling him about my teddy bear at home, the maths problems I couldn't solve, and the large gardenia bush in our back garden. We also made a promise that when we got out, we'd go see the gardenias together. After what seemed like an eternity, we heard rustling sounds from outside. Bloody hell! The kid's family called the police. The warehouse door burst open, and a flood of light poured in, blinding us. Several men rushed inside. In the chaos, I saw one of the kidnappers brandishing a knife, about to stab the person next to me. Barnaby! I instinctively threw myself in front of him, feeling a sharp pain in my back. Police sirens wailed outside, and the warehouse was suddenly flooded with light. For the first time, I could see his face clearly. He was truly handsome. Police! Hands on your head and get down. His beautiful eyes filled with panic. Meredith! Hold on. Meredith! I struggled to look at him, managing a smile. Barnaby, will we see each other again? Before he could answer, I passed out from the pain. That kidnapping ordeal ended with his comforting scent filling my nostrils. The next time I saw Barnaby was on the hospital room telly. This random kidnapping in an affluent area had caused quite a stir in society, especially since one of the kidnapped children was the young master of the renowned Lancaster family from Westminster. I watched him in the news reports and newspapers, seeing the boy grow into a man who took over his family's business empire. I silently made a vow, I would also be on telly, and I'd be very, very famous. That way, Barnaby would see me and find me again. My acting career was on a meteoric rise. For my screen debut right after graduation, I won the BAFTA Award for Best Actress, and film offers came pouring in. The most eye-catching offer was from the renowned director Linus Chamberlain, inviting me to play the lead role in his new film, Romeo and Juliet, which was famous throughout the entire film festival circuit. This film wasn't particularly outstanding among Mr. Chamberlain's works. My agent was also trying to persuade me that this film, as my second project after winning Best Actress, might be a bit underwhelming. But at that moment, all I could think about was what Mr. Chamberlain had just said. The sponsor of this film hopes that Meredith Talbot will play the lead role. Seeing me staring blankly at the sponsor's name on the last page of the script, Mr. Chamberlain knowingly said, "With this capital as your backing, Meredith, your future is limitless." I snapped back to reality, put on a polite smile, and with slightly trembling hands, signed my name on the contract. That was probably the ugliest signature I've ever written in my life. At the kickoff party for the new film, Mr. Chamberlain wasn't present. The assistant director and producer were there with smiles that hid ill intentions. It's considered normal in the entertainment industry for actresses to be pressured into drinking at these events. But I had a skill that was extremely unsuitable for the entertainment industry, yet perfect for self-protection. I go crazy when I drink. My agent described my drinking behavior like this: if any man was enchanted by my usual pure and alluring goddess image, after drinking with me once, he would never dare to appear in front of me again. I started shoving the bottle into the producer's mouth. Their assistants were so frightened by my demeanor that they didn't dare to come forward, fearing I might force them to drink as well. "Please, I really can't drink anymore," the assistant director pleaded with a forced smile, holding back the bile rising in his throat as he tried to stop my hand holding the bottle. I glanced at the middle-aged men whose faces and necks had turned purple from drinking. Taking off my jacket, I slowly said, "You lot can go. Call your assistants to drink with me." The assistant director and producer pushed their assistants forward and quickly fled the private room. Before leaving, they instructed the assistants that if they managed to survive, they should charge the bill to Mr. Chamberlain's account. Barnaby Lancaster had just finished a business engagement when he noticed two familiar-looking men stumbling past. His gaze lingered for a couple of seconds, and his secretary immediately whispered in his ear, "That's Assistant Director Chamberlain and the producer. They're from the crew of the film we invested in a few days ago." In the private room, I was lounging lazily on the sofa, directing the young assistants who had lost at dice to drink. "Can you still drink or not? Hurry up. Miss, I really can't drink anymore. Can we stop? Please, let's stop." I took a leisurely sip of my drink and drawled, "No. When Barnaby Lancaster pushed open the door, Following the sound, he saw a scene of several men standing around. Surrounding me on the sofa, disheveled and flushed. Seeing Barnaby Lancaster, the assistants felt as if a deity had descended to bring justice. They bowed repeatedly. "Mr. Lancaster, you're here." Barnaby Lancaster frowned at the alcohol-reeking group, then directly picked me up from the sofa. His tightly pressed lips opened to say, "Take care of them." "Yes, sir." The secretary bowed slightly and opened the door for Barnaby Lancaster. The assistants behind were dumbfounded. The woman who had been acting like a madwoman just moments ago was now curled up in Barnaby Lancaster's arms. The representative of the city of Westminster's capital, as docile as a cat. I sniffed hard, the pleasant scent of the man entering my nostrils. The familiarity of that scent made me murmur unconsciously, "Brother." The man froze at this address. I wrapped my arms around his slightly stiffened neck and leaned in. "Brother, I want to sleep." That night, in my hazy state, I was placed on a bed. The deep scent of wood, mixed with a hint of tobacco, was close by. Warm fingertips repeatedly caressed the corners of my eyes, and I heard a man's soft sigh, "Meredith." In the early hours of the morning, in Barnaby Lancaster's office. "Mr. Lancaster, here's the information you requested." Barnaby Lancaster leaned back in his chair, staring out the window, and said flatly, "No issues, I presume." The secretary seemed to recall something and paused briefly before speaking softly. "Her background is clean. Both parents deceased. No issues at all. Good. You may go." "Oh, and about the crew of Romeo and Juliet." Barnaby Lancaster gently twisted the silver ring on his finger, the light falling on the engraved letters "Met," reflecting a cold glint. "Replace them all. As for those from tonight, teach them a lesson. Every time I drink, I'm sure to black out and can't remember a thing." But that night, in my hazy memory, I think I saw my brother. It must have been a dream. Since the start of filming Romeo and Juliet, I had been hoping my brother would come. Sitting in the people carrier, staring wistfully out the window. My assistant Elsie Quinn worriedly asked, "Meredith, he hasn't come again?" I softly murmured an and gazed at the greenery outside. From age 5 until now, over a decade, the disappointments related to him had accumulated so much that they now only stirred small ripples in my heart. My only hope was Romeo and Juliet. "Meredith, he'll definitely come," Elsie comforted me. "He's sponsoring Romeo and Juliet, and the director said it was the sponsor who wanted you to star in it. He's probably just too busy to visit the set, given how large his company is." She added, "Oh, and when we wrap up later, have the driver take you home. I'll go to the therapist to pick up your medication." I nodded and smiled at Elsie. "Thanks for your hard work." "Oh, come on, don't thank me like that. We've been best friends for how many years now? I know everything about you, don't be so formal." As the full Monty wrapped up, the premiere for the new film arrived as scheduled. After a short teaser played on the big screen, director Bertram Osborne took the microphone and stepped on stage. I walked onto the stage amidst applause, my gaze carefully scanning every seat in the audience, suppressing my disappointment and forcing a smile. The host took over, promoting the film for a bit, then I joined the director and other key crew members on stage to prepare for the Champagne Tower. Suddenly, there were gasps from the audience. Reporters hastily raised their cameras, and unfriendly flashes were aimed at my face. The managers and Elsie below looked stunned. Confused, I turned my head to see photos cycling on the big screen of me entering a private room with the assistant director and producer that night. My head buzzed. In the entertainment industry, such photos would be devastating even for stars with decades of experience. All the gossip would push people towards the most unsavory interpretations. I forced myself to stay calm. Panicking now would only look like guilt to the reporters and audience. Unconsciously, I found myself alone on stage, facing the incessant camera flashes below. If I left the stage, it would be as good as admitting to this scandal. But standing here, without a prepared statement from PR, without evidence to counter the allegations, could I just say it's not what you think? Too weak. I took a deep breath and raised the microphone to my lips. No matter what, I should apologize first for the disruption to the premiere caused by this controversy. I pressed my lips together, about to speak, when a hand with distinct knuckles took the microphone from me, gently shielding me behind him with his other hand. Members of the media, I am Barnaby Lancaster. I was also present the night these photos were taken. The truth is, I barely heard the rest of what he said. I stared dumbly at the man standing in front of me, his words echoing in my head, I am Barnaby Lancaster. The man's deep, magnetic voice was like high-quality audio through headphones, making my cerebral cortex tingle. The harsh spotlight that had been interrogating me now clearly outlined his outstanding, chiseled profile. He seemed to have just arrived, with no time to put on a jacket. Wearing only a white shirt with the top 2 buttons undone, sleeves rolled up to reveal the obvious muscle definition in his arms as he held the microphone. My suspended heart floated back down, then began to race wildly in my chest. As I rode the lift with Barnaby Lancaster, I silently calculated how long it had been since I was 5 years old. By the time we reached the door of Barnaby Lancaster's office, I had just finished my 3rd count, accurate and undeniable. Exactly 17 years. Miss Talbot, please have a seat. If I hadn't arrived in time at today's premiere, how did Miss Talbot plan to compensate for the losses to the film's box office and sponsors? I repeated his words in a daze, Miss Talbot? Barnaby Lancaster looked up and met my eyes, his fingers with distinct knuckles tapping rhythmically on the desk. My hands hung at my sides, tightly crumpling the hem of my dress. I thought the phrase long-awaited reunion could only mean something better. Because just the long separation was bad enough. But I never imagined there could be something worse, like the person you've been longing to reunite with having forgotten you completely. And the absolute worst is, even when you know that the memories you alone cherish mean nothing to him, you still can't refuse any request he makes. The terms of the deal offered by Barnaby Lancaster were both reasonable and tempting. He could use his vast capital to help me smooth over the incident at the press conference, as well as any potential future impacts, and my career planning, which included several major IP resources that were about to start production. When Barnaby proposed the resource exchange, his secretary even came in and placed a proposal in front of me, beginning to explain it in great detail. It was very thoughtful and clearly not their first time making such a deal. I found myself lost in thought, staring at his profile, remembering the rumors I'd heard about Barnaby Lancaster back in university. In my first year at uni, news of Barnaby Lancaster taking full control of the Lancaster Group was everywhere. From the internet to newspapers, with reports flooding in from all directions. In an instant, the youngest and wealthiest CEO in Westminster became the fantasy husband for all women. This, of course, included university girls who were most adept at daydreaming. Back then, in our dorm, the first topic before opening our eyes and the last topic before closing them was always Barnaby Lancaster. The topic of Barnaby's female companions was particularly contentious, with many tabloids even sending out paparazzi to follow him, and they did manage to get some scraps. However, each time they published, the magazines were quickly banned, though some netizens still managed to save a few photos. Gossip-hungry internet users were surprised to find that the women by Barnaby's side were all graceful and alluring. More importantly, the female companions captured in photos with him were never the same. Miss Talbot, there's one more thing, please remember. The secretary's businesslike voice pulled me out of my reverie. The contract in front of me had been flipped to the last page. You must not disclose your relationship with Mr. Lancaster to anyone. We will take care of informing your company. If you have no other questions, I will accompany you this afternoon to pack your things and move to Mr. Lancaster's place. Until I walked out of the office, Barnaby Lancaster hadn't looked up at me once. I was settled into Barnaby's country house, surrounded by towering pine and cypress trees, a secluded spot exclusive to the wealthy. Before leaving, the secretary informed me that my movements wouldn't be restricted. But if I needed to travel out of town for filming, I must seek Mr. Lancaster's approval in advance. Looking at the few scattered cardboard boxes in the vast living room, I finally had a sense of waking from a dream. I dug out a bottle of wine from one of the boxes and curled up on Barnaby's sofa, which probably cost more than I could imagine, trying to make sense of the current situation. 1. He wants me to star in a film he's sponsoring. 2. I wasn't dreaming that drunken night, he was indeed there. 3. He doesn't remember anything from before. 4. I should now be considered his lover. I took a swig of wine, looked around the empty house, and let out a hearty belch without worry. Taking out my phone, I typed Barnaby Lancaster amnesia into the search bar. Seeing the blank results, I took another gulp of wine, feeling a bit dizzy. The phone beside me rang, the caller ID showing Elsie. Meredith. I heard from the company that Barnaby Lancaster helped clear things up for you at the press conference and even arranged several big IP productions for you. Tell me everything. Did he swoop in like a hero and shower you with resources? What happened next? I dramatically flopped onto the sofa, drawling, what happened next? Bollocks. Meredith. Have you been drinking? Bloody Barnaby Lancaster. He didn't even recognize me. How is that possible? Meredith, are you sure you're not too drunk to remember? How could he not recognize you? You haven't had plastic surgery, have you? I tilted my head back, downing the rest of the wine. He's lost his memory. I've become Barnaby Lancaster's lover through blood, sweat, and tears, enduring humiliation, giving my all, and persevering through hardships. There was a soft click from the front door not far away. I looked up, puzzled, to see Barnaby Lancaster leaning against the doorframe, looking at me with an amused expression. How exactly have you endured humiliation and given your all? Barnaby supported himself with one hand on the backrest, trapping me between the sofa and himself. The mellow scent of oud wood unfurled around us, and I felt a burning sensation from my ears to my fingertips. I could barely withstand his advances, tears involuntarily flowing from the corners of my eyes, only to be kissed away by him, lingering on that beauty mark. His voice, low and slow, fell on my ear, Meredith, call me darling. Finally, as the sky outside the floor-to-ceiling windows began to lighten, Barnaby wrapped me, now completely undone, in a bath towel. As he picked me up, he seemed to pause for a moment, then chuckled softly, this sofa will have to go. I remained motionless, pretending to be asleep in his arms, but my ears burned with a hidden fire. That night, Barnaby slept holding me. Not just that night, but every time he came after that, he would sleep holding me. My therapist expressed satisfaction with the noticeable improvement in my sleep quality recently, saying that if this continues, I could reduce the frequency of my medication. In my memory, my brother was always the one who would comfort me when I was scared, who would take the blame for me. Although I don't know why Barnaby Lancaster has become so taciturn, cold-faced, and ill-tempered now, even rough in bed. But I always feel that he hasn't forgotten everything. Like his gaze that always lingers on the corner of my eye. Like how he enjoys me calling him brother, and his peculiar fascination with my beauty mark. Barnaby's amnesia even makes me feel that the past isn't so important. If those memories cause him so much pain, then it's better to forget and live in the present. Being able to be with my brother now is already more than enough for me. After all, this is something I never dared to dream of before. My agent has helped me secure a new film role aiming for next year's BAFTA Awards. It will be shot in Pinewood Studios for 3 months. I pinched the bridge of my nose, remembering that the secretary had mentioned I should inform Barnaby if I was going away for filming. He probably won't agree to me being away for so long. Is this the stench of love? Is the great CEO Lancaster so clingy? My agent teased, nudging me with her elbow. I chuckled softly, feeling a hint of sweetness spreading in my heart. The new film in Pinewood Studios started as scheduled, with the male lead being a renowned heartthrob in the British entertainment industry. The media caught wind of some behind-the-scenes footage and leaked it on Twitter. The buzz from a few days ago hadn't died down, and now it's been pushed to the top again. I dragged my exhausted body back to the hotel, only to see my name trending high on Twitter. Meredith, it seems the male actors team bought the trending spot, my agent called. Shall we release a PR statement to clarify? Yes, let the PR team do it as soon as possible. Release it tonight, I said urgently. All right, my agent laughed on the other end of the line. Are you afraid your CEO will get jealous? Oh, don't worry, even if we don't clarify, Mr. Lancaster will surely buy a clarification trend before we do. I told her I don't rely on him over the phone, but I couldn't help the slight upward curve of my lips. Before my agent could finish speaking, there was a knock at the door. I'll hang up for a moment to answer the door. As I spoke, I walked towards the door. The person outside seemed extremely impatient, increasing the force of their knocking, making the door shake. Who is it? I had barely opened the door a crack when the person outside suddenly yanked it open. I was unexpectedly pulled into a man's embrace by the force. Meredith. Talbot. Barnaby Lancaster's voice was low and hoarse, frightening me. I quickly tried to distance myself from him, my feet stepping backwards. With one long-armed grab, he turned to close the door, and I was pinned against it, unable to move. Barnaby's long, pale hand gripped my chin tightly. His eyes were bloodshot, seemingly exhausted yet filled with fury. "I let you go out to film, not to fool around with male actors, did I?" I bit my lip, it was all staged. "I didn't fool around." His hand relaxed its brutal force, caressing the corner of my eye, touching that beauty mark as he said word by word. "If you want to fool around, get plastic surgery. Don't wear this face and fool around outside for me." I was stunned. His silver pinky ring lightly touched my cheek, feeling cold. That night, Barnaby was unrestrained in his passion, completely disregarding whether I could handle it or not. The next day I woke up sore all over, my body covered in marks of passion he had left. He had never lost control like this before. I reached out to touch the other side of the bed. It was cold, he seemed to have left quite a while ago. Just as I was about to curl back into the duvet, trying to make sense of what Barnaby had said last night, my phone rang beside me. "Meredith. Check Twitter." My agent paused. "Brace yourself before you look." I hung up the phone and opened Twitter. The top trend had only 5 words. Barnaby Lancaster Meredith Talbot. I clicked on it. It was a series of high-resolution photos of me being held in Barnaby's arms last night. All the way until we closed the door and entered the room. If it weren't for the low angle, I would have thought these were some sort of official couple announcement photos we had taken. The second trending topic was a PR statement from the male lead of my film, clarifying that he and I only had a professional relationship. This must all be Barnaby's arrangement. Otherwise, no media outlet would dare to directly release information about Barnaby Lancaster. I felt vaguely happy. Barnaby had never publicly acknowledged anyone before, and even rumors would be instantly suppressed by him. Last night's disappointment was largely washed away. I thought, perhaps my brother was just jealous. It had been a while since we wrapped up filming at Pinewood Studios, but Barnaby Lancaster hadn't come to see me even once. I stared blankly at myself in the makeup mirror, suddenly remembering the time Barnaby took me to a friend's gathering. He wouldn't let me drink, and my luck at cards was poor, so I had to sit quietly to the side, waiting for Barnaby to finish. A woman beside me, someone's plus one I didn't know, stared at me meaningfully for a long while before saying, "You're really lucky. Even that beauty mark is perfectly placed." I didn't have time to ask what she meant before the woman saw Barnaby walking over and immediately fell silent. That night, he was in a good mood and pressed me against the entryway, as usual, with delicate kisses falling on the corner of my eye. As I recalled every detail of the past 2 years with Barnaby, I felt something was off but couldn't put my finger on it. Until I received that Twitter direct message from an anonymous user. I had always hoped that one day, my brother would remember everything. I even thought, if he couldn't remember, it didn't matter. At least now and in the future, I would be by his side. But the truth was, he hadn't forgotten anything. Only the little girl who called him brother in his memories had been replaced. The last message in the DM warned, "Stand and miss, come see who you're replacing." I opened the message. The first 2 photos were group shots of 3 men and 1 woman in front of a large pine forest. Barnaby in the photos was clearly younger, still with traces of childhood on his face, a dazzling smile plastered on. The woman in the middle of the photo did indeed look 7 or 8 tenths similar to me. The anonymous user, seeing I had read the message, instantly sent another. "That's his childhood sweetheart. Audrey saved Barnaby from a knife attack when they were little, then they grew up together. Even if they didn't end up together, they have a bond of life and death. I just wanted to remind you not to forget your place." Their families are old friends. In terms of looks, family background, and connections, you could never replace Audrey in Barnaby's heart. Moreover, you're just a stand-in. Oh, and that film of yours was adapted from her story. They didn't even change the name Audrey Newbolt. How pathetic is that, Meredith? I opened Wikipedia and saw a clearer picture of Audrey Newbolt. I gently touched the woman's face on my phone screen. The few sentences on Wikipedia summed up her entire life. Audrey Newbolt. A beauty, as graceful as a willow. In the photo, she smiled brightly, slender and fair-skinned. Clearly a young lady from a wealthy family, well-protected, completely different from me. Wikipedia showed that when Audrey was 5, she was kidnapped along with the son of a family friend. After their successful rescue the following year, they were betrothed. The rest of the story was just as written in the script. I played her role in the film, and even off-screen, I was still playing her. I remember once, Barnaby rarely stayed at the mansion during the day, but from morning on, he had shut himself in the media room. At noon, he texted me to bring a pack of cigarettes from the living room to him. When I opened the door, I was driven back by the overwhelming smell of smoke. When I opened the door again, I immediately saw Romeo and Juliet playing on the screen. On the coffee table in the media room, 3 or 4 silver cigarette boxes were scattered about. Seeing I hadn't moved, Barnaby frowned and said, "Just leave the cigarettes." I closed the door, feeling secretly pleased. Ice-cold Sundara, the real deal is right here, why watch a movie? In the afternoon, Barnaby came out with red eyes, didn't even look at me, and drove off directly. Now I know, that day was the anniversary of Audrey's death. He must have gone to the cemetery. Barnaby, what is your heart made of? The sponsor's pick, the director's insinuations at the new film press conference. Telling me not to go around with this face and perfectly placed beauty mark. The scene at the Romeo and Juliet press conference, was that also part of his scheme for me? It turns out, he wasn't calling me Mary, but Audrey. The lush pine trees outside the mansion were probably because she liked them. And that silver ring he habitually twirled, I never had a chance to see the engraving clearly, because he never took it off. Troubled, I picked up the concealer, turned away from the mirror, and began covering the frightening scar on my back, stroke by stroke. At first, I was afraid of scaring Barnaby. Since he no longer remembered what happened when we were little, this scar was meaningless. It might even cause him to revoke my qualification to stay by his side because of the scar. I looked at the half-covered scar in the mirror. One half seamlessly blended with smooth skin, the other half, shocking to behold. Whether it's scars or memories, covering them up isn't actually that difficult. I wiped off the concealer and, for the first time, lay down in my own room in the mansion, swallowed 2 pills, and fell into a deep sleep. I dreamed again of that dark warehouse, of that man with the knife. I closed my eyes, prepared to be stabbed, then wake up startled, just like every nightmare. But this time, at the moment the kidnapper was about to stab me, I was suddenly held tightly. It was my brother. I woke with a start, gasping for air, feeling something pressing down on me. The blanket wrapped tightly around me, and above that, a man's arm. I was completely encircled in his embrace. Barnaby held me very tight. I moved a bit, trying to break free. He suddenly mumbled vaguely, "Audrey." I was stunned for a moment, forgetting to struggle, and he pulled me closer again. Barnaby was sleeping deeply, his handsome brows furrowed tightly, as if he was having an unpleasant dream. I slowly reached out my hand, tracing his brows and eyes, inch by inch smoothing out the furrows between his brows. I curled up in his arms, trying hard to remember his scent. I don't know if there was something wrong with my nose, or if he had been to a church. Today he smelled a bit like incense. At 4:30 in the morning, the sky was just beginning to lighten. I carefully placed the pillow in his arms and got up from the bed. I only took my ID, passport, and phone. Before leaving, I looked back at the windowsill. Not long ago, I had still been hoping Barnaby would remember our promise from before. So I bought a small pot of gardenia and placed it on the windowsill to grow. Now it had sprouted many green leaves, and it shouldn't be long before it bloomed. Unfortunately, no matter how lushly it bloomed, it could never compete with the vast greenery outside the window that had grown for years. In the car to the airport, I used my phone to buy a ticket for the soonest available flight. Just as I passed through security, I received a call from Barnaby. "Meredith, what are you doing?" Even through the phone, I could feel his anger, almost uncontrollable, about to spread. I lowered my eyes and said softly into the phone, "I'm leaving, brother." He was silent for a long time on the other end of the line. Just when I thought the call had disconnected, his hoarse voice came through, "Don't go, Meredith. I'll come get you." His tone was almost pleading. "Are you so afraid of losing another Audrey?" "Barnaby, I'm not Audrey Newbolt." I never was. With that, I hung up decisively and turned off my phone. I laughed at myself for trying to test my place in his heart with one last brother even at the very end. Barnaby, your luck in gambling is extremely good, but mine is terrible. I gambled away the first half of my life and lost everything. I don't dare to place any more bets. The plane ticket I bought on a whim was to Iceland. I still vaguely remember that after being kidnapped, on every birthday, I would sit properly in front of the birthday cake and make a wish sincerely. I hope to see my brother. Later, after my parents passed away in an accident, I stopped celebrating my birthday and making wishes. However, the wish came true after more than a decade, but in a way I had never imagined. A dirty way, a humiliating way. When my agent called, I was curled up in the hotel bed, smoking. It's a bit tricky to buy cigarettes abroad, but fortunately, Barnaby Lancaster smokes foreign brands too, so I managed to find them after checking a few shops. When I took the first puff, I was really choked. It wasn't until the smoke slowly dissipated that I felt a hint of familiar taste. Perhaps because I don't know how to smoke properly, the cigarettes burn quickly. Basically a pack a day. I don't want to admit it's because I think of him too frequently. Meredith, Romeo and Juliet has been nominated for the Olivier Awards. It seems there's no suspense. You should prepare to come back. After hanging up the phone, I logged onto Twitter to see who else was nominated for the Olivier Awards this year. Among a string of messages, likes from the same person filled my phone screen. I clicked on her profile and understood immediately. Hot and sexy, just like Barnaby Lancaster's old taste. She probably wanted to openly greet Barnaby Lancaster's past. Unfortunately, she found the wrong person. Barnaby Lancaster's past was never me, Meredith Talbot, from beginning to end. After disappearing for half a year, when everyone thought I had been shelved by the company, I came back and even stepped onto the podium of the highest award in the entire film industry. Twitter exploded. I smiled and responded to the endless toasts and countless congratulations. They said that although there was a mishap at the press conference of Romeo and Juliet that year, affecting the box office, gold will always shine no matter what. Yes, on and off screen, I've been painstakingly playing Audrey Newbolt. This is what I deserve. On the day of the award ceremony, the top trending topic was, the CEO's secret 2-year girlfriend was actually his childhood sweetheart's substitute? Well, now that I'm trending again, the whole world knows I'm a substitute. Just thinking about it made me inexplicably irritated. I returned to the country on short notice, and the apartment arranged by the company was still being prepared, so they let me stay in a hotel first. Looking at myself in the reflection of the hotel elevator, I pulled off my shawl. Elsie, tell me, am I beautiful? I murmured. Elsie turned to look at the woman in front of her and suddenly felt she couldn't take her eyes off her. She marveled inwardly, no wonder she's a top celebrity who has trended several times just for her evening gowns on the red carpet. It's worth noting that walking the red carpet in evening gowns is a high-difficulty task that many female stars can't handle. But Meredith Talbot could trend just with candid photos. She definitely had curves in all the right places and was slim where she should be. The most beautiful part was Meredith's face. Her butterfly-like eyelashes fluttered, her eyes seemed to be filled with shimmering light. And her cupid's bow had been licked shiny at some point. Her entire being exuded beauty. Elsie swallowed and said, You're beautiful. I turned to Elsie with a smile and said, Come on, let's go have some fun. That night, Meredith Talbot trended again. The photo was a candid shot in front of the hotel elevator. The trending topic was, Meredith Talbot, a once-in-a-millennium beauty. At the nightclub, I asked my friend, a model agent, to bring all the young male models he knew who could drink. When everyone arrived, the scene truly amazed me, followed quickly by regret. I realized that Barnaby Lancaster wasn't actually the most handsome man in the world. I was immediately dazzled by these male models. I didn't notice Barnaby standing at the door with a dark expression for who knows how long. At that moment, I was asking a 19-year-old model in my arms, Darling, what's your star sign? Meredith Talbot. Barnaby's voice, seemingly just emerged from an ice cellar, crashed heavily into the room. I instinctively shuddered. Just as I thought he was about to explode in anger, Barnaby walked up to me, picked up a nearby blanket and gently covered my exposed skin. "Barnaby?" I asked hazily, my heart feeling as if it had been severely scalded. "Meredith." He knelt down on one knee beside me, positioning himself so that I could meet his gaze with just a slight tilt of my head. "Let's stop drinking, okay? Come home with me." Barnaby's tone was as gentle as if he were coaxing a bristling kitten. I clearly heard gasps from around us, and the sound of people taking photos with their phones. Half squinting, I gently lifted Barnaby's chin. "Mr. Lancaster, where's your signet ring?" I had intended to see Barnaby's interesting expression after hearing this, but I was too weak. As soon as I finished speaking, I fell straight into Barnaby's arms. When the sunlight filtered through the curtains, I woke up in Barnaby's embrace. I slowly extricated myself from his arms and tiptoed out of the room. The mansion had barely changed, including my room. "Miss Talbot." The sudden voice startled me. I looked around and saw Barnaby's secretary sitting on the sofa, apparently waiting for me to wake up. "Miss Talbot, may I have a word with you?" From the secretary, I learned that during the 6 months I was away, Barnaby and the Lancaster family had undergone significant changes. And I learned the truth about certain matters. When Mr. Lancaster first met you, he asked me to investigate you. At that time, I deliberately concealed the fact that you were kidnapped at the age of 5. Because everyone in the Lancaster group knew that the girl kidnapped with Mr. Lancaster was Miss Newbolt. After the kidnapping, Mr. Lancaster suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder memory loss for a period. He couldn't remember many details from his childhood, including that kidnapping. Mr. Lancaster wanted to seek treatment at the time, but his father disagreed, saying it was better to forget that incident. Please understand, Mr. Lancaster had no other choice at the time, as he was only 10 years old. I unconsciously sat up straight, my fingers curling tightly. Actually, before you left, Mr. Lancaster had already started receiving rehabilitation therapy. Later, he returned to the Lancaster family estate and had a big argument with his father. After Mr. Lancaster left, his father couldn't catch his breath and passed away. I was stunned. The secretary in front of me sighed almost imperceptibly. "Miss Talbot, if you must blame someone, blame us. Regarding that kidnapping, it was the old master's personal order at the time, and no one dared to question it." The secretary smiled apologetically at me. "Miss Talbot, I'm telling you all this because I don't want you to resent Mr. Lancaster. He was unaware of what happened back then." "Well, Miss Talbot, that's all I wanted to say. The housekeeper has prepared breakfast, you must be hungry." The secretary led me to the dining room, where an older woman stood by the table. Impeccably dressed in uniform, her silver hair neatly arranged. "You must be Miss Talbot," she smiled at me. Just as the master said, beautiful from childhood to adulthood. I was stunned. From childhood? The woman's smile deepened. "Let's eat first." The table was set with simple dishes and chicken broth. I touched my stomach, realizing that after a night of drinking, something light would indeed be best. While eating, I casually asked, "Does Barnaby come here often?" The housekeeper softly replied, "The master comes almost every day. The master always stays in the furthest room on the 2nd floor. That room, the master always tidies it himself. He doesn't let me in." I lowered my eyes, taking a small spoonful of broth. That room was mine. After eating, the discomfort from the hangover eased considerably. I sprawled on the sofa, even considering taking another nap. Suddenly, I remembered the gardenia I had left here. By the way, is the gardenia pot on the windowsill still there? Oh! The gardenia! The housekeeper led me to the 2nd floor window and opened the large floor-to-ceiling window. "The master moved it here." I looked down to see the entire backyard filled with a sea of gardenias. The small white flowers, touched by morning dew, bloomed quietly. I could even smell their faint fragrance. The master planted all of these himself, and he takes care of them personally. The master once said he remembered you mentioning that you liked the gardenias in the backyard. I stood there as if struck by lightning, my eyes gradually becoming moist. "Meredith." Barnaby's voice suddenly sounded behind me. I blinked hard, trying to push back the wetness in my eyes, to hide it. The familiar scent of the man was close. He gently encircled me, resting his chin on my shoulder. I lowered my eyes and said softly, "You've already used this move on someone else." "Then this doesn't count." Barnaby moved in front of me, bending slightly to meet my gaze. "The house where you used to live with your parents is now going through legal procedures. In another 2 weeks, it will be back in your name." He pulled me into his arms. "Meredith, everything you've lost over the years, I'm helping you get back, bit by bit." I clutched his sleeve, holding it tightly in my hand, and mumbled, "Gardenias are hard to grow." Mm. The man responded softly, "I failed many times before I finally managed to make them bloom." "The pine tree from before, you didn't plant that yourself, did you?" "Meredith," Barnaby chuckled, "no, I didn't." "Meredith," he held me tighter, "I've come to find you, to apologize." The news of my engagement to Barnaby Lancaster caused quite a stir. My Twitter was flooded with heartbroken messages from fans, along with many supportive comments from my most devoted followers. I laughed as I read them out to Barnaby one by one. He frowned slightly, seemingly unimpressed. "Who says I'm a scoundrel? Aren't you?" I half-jokingly looked at him. His brow furrowed deeper. "Meredith, I've never been with another woman." "Oh." I pulled up a screenshot. "Then who was this liking my posts in the middle of the night?" Barnaby stared at my phone intently for a while, then turned to look at me. "I really don't know her." He picked up his phone. "But it doesn't matter. I'll have her blacklisted today. No one needs to know who she is." I cupped his face with both hands, forcing him to turn and look at me. "Really never been with anyone else?" Barnaby stared at me intently. "Never, Meredith." "All right then." I reached out, slowly smoothing out his furrowed brow, and kissed him. He was stunned for a moment, his breathing becoming rapid. His large hand wrapped around my waist, pulling me close, deepening the kiss.